Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Dororo, episode 15. So last time we kind of left off on the first part of a two-parter. And I knew about that going in because I was told about that, but I still decided to do for now at least one a week. So last episode kind of left us off on a bit of a cliffhanger there, but not too bad of one. Um, Basically, Hyakimaru and Duro came upon this burned house and saw that there was oil in the vicinity of it, meaning that it was more than likely burned down by someone. They met this guy who told them that it was struck by lightning and seemed to be hiding a lot. But they follow him into his village, and he seems pretty well liked. And we end up finding out that there's a demon that he's working with. And I kind of theorized last time that he's probably not a bad person, and that's why Hyakimaru didn't see him as such, or saw him more as kind of like mixed, like a good person with like these sprinkles of bad within there. Um, and it's like I think he's a good person who's genuinely trying to help. Kind of unlike Hyakimaru's father. Lord Daigo is a bad person who's using the idea of good to further his own ambitions. He's pretending to do all that he's done and will do for the sake of the land and its people, but in reality, he's just doing it for his own sake. And they've made very clear to blatantly tell us that. um, but this guy's kind of the opposite. I think he's genuinely trying to help his people and that he genuinely cares for his people and that he believes working with this demon is going to help with that in some way, that he's going to be able to provide for them in the way that he needs to. But he also isn't above doing some twisted things for the sake of that goal. He's not above doing some bad things. He's fully willing to do whatever it takes, and to a destructive degree. And that's bad. That's very bad. But again, it's kind of like this series definitely is bringing in the concept of morality very heavily, and what is morally good, what is morally bad, and what is kind of morally gray, that kind of has both good and bad to it. And this is definitely one of those situations where it's like he's genuinely working to try and help his people, and he wants them to thrive and to just not have to worry about anything. But at the same time, he also is willing to do bad things to achieve that goal. So it's kind of a morally gray area. And that doesn't excuse the things he's done. The things he's done has still been terrible and horribly bad. That is not excused by having good intent. Because when you think about it, most of the worst people in history had technically good intent, or at least they thought they did. That they believed that they were doing it for those that they cared over, the people they loved, or the people that they wanted to see thrive, or whatever else. But they were either they while they believed that, they were wrong and they were doing it for their own ambitions, or they were just going so far with it that it ended up becoming so insanely destructive and bad that it's just, yeah. Either way, it doesn't excuse it. Like, good intent does not excuse bad action. It just explains it. And you can even understand it to a point, but it doesn't excuse it. People who commit these kinds of heinous actions still have to face the consequences of that. Whether in real life that's by being arrested and going to prison, or if in this series it means, as harsh as it sounds, with how this series tends to go, death. um, but he does have to face the consequences of the things he's done. And we'll probably find out more about that in this episode. Um, I'm definitely excited to get to more of this. I've been, as you know, really, really enjoying this series. Even if I have gotten a little slow to get to new episodes at points, I very much always apologize for that. Um, but yeah, it's like I'm very excited to get to more of this. It's just really awesome. Um, and yeah, it's got a lot of great character stuff, a lot of wonderful just emotional moments and great action as well. Great morality and philosophy discussion material. A lot of this kind of great stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with this next. So let's get into it. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So we finally know the truth. It seems that the nun was abusive and horribly just despicable, and that with some of the villagers at his side, Lord Sabame killed her and then burned down the orphanage with all the children inside as a sacrifice to the moths. I looked up a little bit of stuff about the episode as well, in between the recording and this, just to kind of like get a few details that I was a little fuzzy on. But he did it for the village to help them, and the moths did keep up their end of the bargain, helping him make the village prosper and the people happy and everything. But in the end, Hyakumaru still challenged him to it all and was so intent on killing the demons. And he did. He lost one of his prosthetic legs in the process, but he did. He killed many of the demons, even killing the main one to get his spine back, which I was right about. Which, oh my god, that was so unsettling, so uncomfortable. Um, but yeah. And in the end, thanks to Dororo as well as one of the moths, the village was completely destroyed and burned down. Dororo burned down the rice storehouse he was in, and the moth burned down the rest of the village, basically. The moth was kind of did so after Hyakimaru, like after it was carrying Hyakimaru away, and then Hyakimaru like cut his way out and fell and everything, and then yeah, everything kind of stemmed from that. But in the end, that's when they really touched on the moral gray aspect of this. And that seems to be a really recurring theme in this series. Morality and how it's not always so black and white, how it can be very hard to determine who's right and who's wrong in these situations. Lord Sabame truly did want to help his people. He saw them suffering. He saw them dying, being killed by brigands and wild animals. And he worked with these demons because it was his only choice. It was the only thing he could do to help his people. He desperately wanted to save them. He desperately wanted to help them. And so he went too far. He made a deal with these moth demons. He sacrificed the orphans to them as payment, and they kept up their bargain. Everything in the village was going great. Again, the infighting between villagers stopped. The the uh the constant stealing from each other and shit. They had plenty to eat, plenty to live for. Everyone was happy. And they only showed any kind of negative intent, like only when Dororo started questioning things. They didn't want anything to change because their lives had become so much better. But the actions that caused all of this were still bad, undeniably wrong. But that's the thing. And as I said before, it doesn't excuse the bad actions. Positive intent, no matter how good of a reason, does not excuse terrible actions like that. But at the same time, does it make you a bad person? And I think no. If your goal here is truly 100% to positively help those you care for, and especially for a leader like Lord Sabame, for those you actually serve and like lead and everything, to care for them so greatly, to want them to live, to want them to prosper and everything, that's good. But again, the actions he took to ensure that were bad. And that's why it was so morally gray. That's why Hyakimaru could not tell what to think of him. Because there was a moral grayness there. And in the end, with everything having burned down, we saw Lord Sabame's dead body. I did find out he is dead. It is, like, legit. Honestly, I believe he killed himself. I believe he killed himself after seeing what had happened. After everything, like, you saw how horrified and just depressed he was over that. Seeing the rice storehouse burn, you could see even as others were talking to him, he had this dead expression of just, he gave up. Everything failed. He gave up. He had no hope anymore. And it's really sad. And Dororo pointed it out. Was this the right thing to do? He pointed out, all Hyakimaru cares about is killing these demons to get his body back. That he's willing to sacrifice all of this, all of these positive villages and people just to achieve that. How does that make him any different than Lord Sabame? How does that make him different from his father? To achieve his goal, he's willing to take bad actions. And Dororo sees that and left him. Dororo left. And maybe he planned on going back to him or finding him again, but he left him. He couldn't be around that. He couldn't accept that. Dororo has such a strong moral compass. And more so than Hyakimaru or any other character, It is very clear that Dororo is supposed to be the character that we as viewers connect to the most. He's the one that we're supposed to see this world through, see these events through. His perspective, his morality. He is such, despite his young age, he is so morally grounded. He has such high morality. He's such a good, genuinely good person that he is the right person for this series to be named for. I had wondered multiple times, why isn't this series named for Hyakimaru? Or why doesn't it just have some kind of like vague other name that doesn't really specify a specific character? Because I kind of thought, like, yeah, Dororo is one of the two main characters. Well, protagonists at least, along with Hyakimaru, but Hyakimaru always felt like he was more of the main protagonist than Dororo. But that's not the point. The point, as I realize now, is that Dororo is the character we are meant to see this series through. And that's become so much more apparent now because of the path Hyakimaru is taking. It's already been firmly hinted at that Hyakimaru is going down a dark path. It's been firmly hinted at that that's going to be the route this series is taking. And this episode kind of proves that. He's not looking at things the right way. He's looking at things so black and white and only seeing things as good or evil that it's hindering his ability to help people. And he's not even focusing on that as a goal anymore. Again, the only thing he cares about is killing these demons and getting his body back. And I get why. I do. And in a way, it also makes him morally gray. And that's the point. This series is about morality. It is about what people do when faced with horrifyingly unbelievable circumstances. How they react, what they say, what they do. And we see throughout the series that it doesn't always stay the same. People change for one reason or another. And sometimes, again, their reasons, their thoughts are good, but the way they go about it is so bad. By being willing to sacrifice lives and villages and livelihoods of all these people just to achieve his goal, again, Hyakimaru is being no better than Lord Sabame, who he was clearly actively against in this episode. He's no better than him. But in the end, they split because Dororo, with his strong moral compass, could not handle that. He could not deal with that kind of action. Especially as someone whose family has gone through that kind of shit in the past. Whose family has been horribly victimized and gone through the destruction of a village. He knows, he gets it, which makes him empathize more with these people. So he left him. But unfortunately, Itachi found him. And Itachi, we already know, is kind of scummy. And he has the half of the map that was on Dororo's mother, which, just thinking about how he got that is horrible. But now he wants the half on Dororo. And it's not going to be pretty. Bad shit's about to happen, and I really feel like this is really getting started. And I do believe that Hyakimaru is going to save Dororo. Because you saw at the end there as well, when he noticed Dororo wasn't following him still. You know that's going to bother him. Because the two have grown close. So I do think Hyakimaru is going to save Dororo, but I don't think that's going to fix anything still. It's like this situation will be taken care of, but that's it. And hey, we might find out what this treasure is, what this is that this map leads to in the first place, because we really haven't known all the details about that. But yeah, it's like the last episode, the first part of this two-parter was really upsetting because of the kids, the orphans, and the way they were treated, and it really bothered me. This one is upsetting more because of the situation, the events that unfolded, and the horrific damage it caused. This was not a happy two-parter. Most of the time, this series isn't happy, to be honest. I still remember, like, the one woman who was caring for those other orphans who was also selling her body to the samurai to get by and was killed by them, as well as the orphans were killed, too. That episode still fucks me up. I don't think it ever won't. Tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.